Check with the battery level. So now we can repair one. I think we have 1,000. National about 1 hour.
Hoy se que maya son Lusikoi
You take that shit close. Mm. This brightens it. Camera is on now.
Okay. It's right or not?
It's brighter now. Off. Then when it's like this, it goes on. It's on like this. Off.
On.
I'm going well. I can hear you. Very good, my son.
Wow,
few minutes.
Looking in the face.
The face of
the camera, no making a carbon shot.
Oh, sure. It's okay.
What?
Please, for
We are about to start. The commencement of the press conference.
because of our brother that's coming, the president of the palace, about two of them. Then, as a scholar, they just went to bail somebody. They're almost here. Then the civil society, they're also joining us. They said that we should give them just finish up. Yeah, I should give them 5 minutes. Then we have some Benin Union from Unibank. They're also coming to join us. So they passed to Selu. They said they're almost there. So just a little give them like 10 minutes, please. That's just really well. As sincere.
We're about to commence the press conference.
The fronts are empty. What's the point? What? You have to go down, isn't it?
Hello?
Mas tu tá.
Hold on.
Conhece? Sorry, man. Sorry, man. What's the fun? Phone should be on Saturday. Okay. Ogiso, you're muy bien,
Anyone, very
Vai.
Sano Kodudu, Sano Pam, Mare, Chikuna,
Daqui
the descendants worldwide. The descendants worldwide. I really have to call in how we could have over the actual level. Black people are everyone for I to get by with descendants. You probably also black people Corona, meeting part of level B. Opa man rekete to bewaje. So on ba us wo. Opa to pe.
There's no time.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess so. Certainly. Anyway, I walk by there, ma. Oh, ye can madoyo. Ora de mo ya na Ise eni ka oya wewe baba o tuwa po igi oba to pe ise ise o ise anyone, we're about to officially start the press conference. On Monday, we saw some banners that was distributed by these Ogiamian people on Monday at the Supreme Court in Abuja. And one of what was written was they said that the Kaladeran story was propagated by Kaladeran. Hence, we have an addendum, a sort of an addendum before the press conference begins, where we can see that there was an article that was written in 2015 by Ogiamian Trumpet. The Ogiamian Trumpet is the magazine of the Ogiamian people, where they are testated by, where they are testated of the existence of the Kaladeran. Therefore, I will call on the Secretary General to read that section of that magazine, the dates, and some of the question that was asked, and how the three persons from the Ogiamian family, how they replied to that question. So,
okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is from the Ogiamian Trumpet. Firstly, from the images on Facebook posted by the Ogiamian family. One of the images reads, it said, the Kaladeran story is an intellectual fraud created by Oba Erejawa. He said, the Kaladeran story is an intellectual fraud created by Oba Erejawa. And the second banner states that Ogiso Wodo died without a child. Anyway, we are going to be reading from the Ogiamian's trumpet, where they attested that a Kaladeran actually existed. So, this is from the Ogiamian's trumpet of August 3rd, 2015, volume 1, number 3, under the bold headline, Avia and the Benin monarchy are not related, which is written by Dr. William. The first question was on the June 3rd to June 10th, 2015, volume 1, number 1, page 5. The question was, how many years did Avian rule Benin Kingdom? How many years did Avian rule Benin Kingdom? And the answer given by Ohen Avian was that one, Avian historically was said to have ruled Benin Kingdom for more than 40 years successfully, and his reign was said to be the most peaceful, purposeful, and remarkable in the history of Benin Kingdom. Then the second person responded, this response was given by Olia Ogiamian. He said, yes, when the Avian became very old and people of Benin became worried should Avian pass away while he was sick, the issue of succession became imminent, and some influential Benin group of people who are envious and of course who were not comfortable with Avian became jittery with the fear that the lineage of Avian will take over the leadership. And from the fact that they had history then that the Kaladeran was still alive, this group of people, not comfortable with the Avian's achievement, decided to institute the process to bring a Kaladeran back to take over from Avian before his death, so that Avian's son would not be able to succeed him. Therefore, a search team was set up to go and locate a Kaladeran and bring him forth to take over from Avian. Mind you, I am reading from the Ogiamian's trumpet. But at this time, when Oliha of Benin and his team went to Uhe, Avian was already 40 years old on the throne and also weak due to old age. Now, this third response was given by Madame Victoria Osahon. While the Benins were busy scheming for the return of a Kaladeran, Avian sent his second and third child, that are Ogiamian and Oliha, to stage a serious protest to stop the search committee from succeeding in achieving their mission. I will stop here so we can go to the press conference proper. So with this, it shows that Ogiamia family recognize the existence of a Caladeran. So I will hand over the mic to the CG to take over from here. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sarime, Secretary General of Association of Great Benin Descendants, for having to read from the Ogiamian trumpet, where I'm sure everybody seated here today could be able to hear that the three persons' comments or answers to the question that was asked, they are all Ogiamian progenies, offspring. So they are testated from their own magazine of the existence of a Caladeran. But meanwhile, let's officially start the press conference. Press statement delivered by Imaswen Amowe Izodowa, Coordinator General, Great Benin Descendant Worldwide, on April 13th, 2019. Good morning to all the pressmen seated here for the press conference of this association. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen from the academia, civil society, and from all walks of life, I say welcome most sincerely. First, before we officially unveil the essence of this press conference, permit me to introduce this group to you all appropriately. Since the inception of this group, we have identified over 36 ethnic nationalities or clans who have enthusiastically traced their roots to Benin. For purpose of time, we will hurriedly mention few of them: Isante Sako or Wanekbe Ogba, Eke Atise Nwuroha Ogbea Igede, Kari Ekiti Aborigines of Iko, Aborigines of Itagbolu, parts of Ika Onitsha people, Oguta, Orobo, Isoko, parts of Ishekiri people, Degema, as far as Benin, Ghana, Togo, and Benin Republic, amongst several others. It is in the knowledge that we are pained of the injustice done to us by the British, and we were the last true resistance to their plans. Without our defeat, Nigeria as a country wouldn't have existed, and as such, we are the parent country which gave birth to Nigeria. Having briefly established the mandate of our group, we cannot proceed to the business of today. We have watched some section of Ogiamian family denigrate the palace of the revered monarch of Great Benin with abominable acts. We have kept quiet in a bid to give these unscrupulous elements a change of act and a variety of degree of patience, so as when we start dealing with them with the appropriate punishment befitting for their sacrilegious acts, those who have watched with rapt attention and who continually but surreptitiously support this act, we therefore know that from this day, this set of people can no longer be treated as one of us. As a measure of their hostility will be meant in even more devastating reaction. We have earnestly cried for an aggressive Benin youth body to have taken this issue up a very long time, as these guys are not invisible and we are very much aware of who they are now. It is in the failure of these Benin people that we are here once again to do our intellectual role in addressing a lot of fallacies by these semi-illiterate people, and also to inform the public that the history being put out to the public is a figment of their imagination, which does not have any known historical local standing, and as such we shall demystify those fallacies as the press conference progresses. We know that these issues are too trivial for the Palace of the Oba of Benin to attend to, hence our mandate as the only socio-cultural organization in Benin Kingdom that engages enemies of our history with superior facts of history and intellectualism. We are not oblivious of the role some ethnic groups are playing, notably the Yorubas and the Jos, in conniving with and funding these vagabonds called the Ogiamens, in trying to continually tie the history of our people and Oba to Ile-Ife. The good news is we have always been aware, and more so, that section of the Yoruba people is also well known to us. But the rippling effect will be devastating for them. In trying to tear our history apart and embarrass our monarch, we are going to intellectually strike back, if not now, sometime in the future. They should be aware that these are no longer days of censorship of history, and that irrespective of all their devices, it will never change the fact that most of their kings are simply politically orientated Owambe kings. Their failure in recent times in matching us historically and having realized that the Benins truly civilized their ancestors in Ile-Ife through our son, Ikaladeran, has made them all desperate to prove and sell fallacious history to the outside world. The prime suspect in this Ogiamen case is one Arisco that was jailed not too long ago by Edo State government of Adams Aliyu Oshomole, who from recent happenings seemed to be more benign than the present Benin governor called Obaseki. The said Arisco has recruited minors of internet fraudsters and even went as far as to recruit a homeless destitute in Port Harcourt, an Ikore man by tribe, to be at the forefront of the agitation of tearing Benin apart while he walks from the shadows. We demand that Godwin Obaseki should act quickly, being the governor of Edo State, because we all are aware the role and Esa Koma played in dealing with these unscrupulous people, and it is that conviction we remember the very words of our king, Obairidiawa of blessed memory, that only the Benin descendants know the true value of their Beninens, in contrast to those who think that they are not Benin. As a result of this press conference, we call on the Ministry of Art, Culture, Tourism and Diaspora Affairs, as well as the Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, to speedily brief the governor of Edo State on the actions necessary for the abominable acts committed by these people. As a result of their failure, this crisis has lingered on, whereas during Adams Oshomole government, the weight of the law was heavily meted on these demented individuals. By the reason of this press conference, we therefore call on the state government to do something about this, and failure to do that which we have intellectually asked will lead us to personally dealing with these people in manner befitting the enemies of the Oba of Benin. They have raised multiple questions that the generally accepted history of our land was falsified by Obairidiawa of blessed memory when he wrote the book, I Remain Sir, Your Obedient Servant, published in the year 2004. In the intellectual argument of such, we want to formally educate these misguided people and as well put on public the true history of our land. Gentlemen of the press, let's now formally historically deal with fallacies raised by these Ogiamien descendants. The Ekiopara Treaty. This was the treaty between Oba Ewedo and the Ogiamien of that era. We all are aware that when Oromiyon returned from Ile-Ife as a rightful heir to the throne of his grandfather, Ogiso Owodo, he was met with a strong resistance from the Ogiamien family, having been given the regency right for about 70 years, that our exiled prince, Ekaladeran, of which the Yorubas of that era knew as Oduduwa, spent at Ile-Ife. When Oromiyan returned back to his ancestral home to rightfully sit upon the throne of his ancestors, but because of the greed of Evian and his progeny, they fought earnestly to deny Oromiyan his rightful place. He moved and led the Edion to build a palace at Usama, from where Oromiyan ruled Benin, but not for long. His son, Obaeweka I, as well as Obaeweka's successors, Wukwaen and Ehemien, Oromiyan's great-grandson, Obaewedo, who later realized that as an Oba, his authority over his people must be absolute and not sectional. In the knowledge of such, he transversed into the heart of Igodomigodo from the peripheral Usama quarter along the present-day Siloko Road, which the Ogiamien family had already colonized. Ladies and gentlemen, let it be known this day that the last 4 Ogiso's palace was not at Uhunwi-Dumu, the quarter Ogiso moved the palace to after his grandfather built the first known palace at Ubekun, but rather at Ogbe, the quarter that the seat of the Oba of Benin is till date. Hence, in history, it is called Ogbe Ogiso, which is, as at today, the present-day Oba Ovoramen Square. When Oba Ewedo manifestly encubered in his bid to build a palace in the heart of Benin, a battle broke out, which led to Oba Ewedo mercilessly defeating the Ogiame and his warriors. It was as a result of the wisdom of diplomacy that he formed Oba Ewedo to graciously have a treaty with the now humbled Ogiame so as to allow peace reign in his kingdom. The treaty was of mutual benefit, where a portion of the land now being presently occupied by the Ogiamian people for the period that a Caladeran went to establish kingship in Ile-Ife, as well as the years from Oba Voramen down to Oba Ehemien, ruled at Usama Palace. In totality, this period lasted approximately 157 years. This period was enough for the Evian progeny to lay claim over a land that in the first place wasn't theirs. Having established that earlier on, Ogiame's jurisdiction was therefore reduced to Utantan Sokpomba Road, from the beginning at present-day Asoro Street to Ivie Neva Moat, present-day Third Junction. When these people currently comment to claim Utantan Kingdom, it therefore means that they are referring to the beginning of Sokpomba Road at First East Circular to where Sokpomba terminates at 10 Junction, which inherently means that Chief Ogiame is more or less an Ojonwe of Utantan. That's fact. To further buttress the point that Ogiame was never much an important figure or a stumbling block in Benin history, Oba Ewedo created the first known title outside the Ejion called Niyasowa, now abridged as Iyase, and that title was referring to the supremacy tussle between the Oba of Benin and the Ejion of the kingdom, of which Olia is the head. So from here you can see that Ogiame was never in any tussle with the Oba of Benin, other than the treaty of the right to hereditary succession and not ownership of land. To further expatiate on this, Princess Agayubini, the first child of Oba Semede, who felt she was denied of the throne, later struck a deal with his younger brother, Oba Adolo, to make the title of Osula hereditary when the title was bestowed upon one of her sons. The Ogiame realized he has lost his sons. The same issue played out between the Ogiame and Oba Ewedo when the Ogiame realized he has lost his relevance as the Ojonwe of Utantan. He therefore struck a treaty with the Oba to allow him return the title of Ogiame as hereditary title. Hence, the Ogiame title was traditionally and officially created by Oba Ewedo. In later years was added to Uzama Nibie, a group of lesser Uzama of which Ogiame is the fifth in significance, by Oba Esige. The reason Oba Esige added Ogiame to this junior Uzama was a move to spite the Olia, because Olia and Ogiame are sworn enemies dating back to the 12th century. The enmity was as a result of Olia leading other delegates to retrieve a Caladeran from Ile-Ife and finally place the Ogiame family where they rightly belong, as blacksmiths from Eyanugie. So in other words, the Ogiame people came from Eyanugie and not from Utatan. Because of that act, Ogiame himself retaliated by creating his own Olia. That's why today you have Olia Ogiame. The Ogiames themselves were opportunists, as the land they occupied in those 157 years belonged to the Ogisos, of which the Obas of Benin are proud extension of. Majority of the Obas didn't observe the Ekiokbaga mock battle because of the insignificance of the practice, which is more or less a ceremonial practice during the coronation phase of the newly crowned Oba of Benin. The generosity of the Oba of Benin influenced his decision in considering the title of Ogiame as hereditary and also as his chief. That was so because we recognize the services of Evian to his kingdom Otherwise, apart from the Osoga myth, it is regrettable that there is a beneficial service to the kingdom attributable to the Ogiamen succession. The general who subdued the Ogiamen was known as Odige Olomi, the then head of blacksmiths, who lived in Ogbe Ibuya. The Oba's army defeated Ogiamen and pushed them to Unueru, where the battle ended, now Asoro Street, along Sopomba. Oba Ewedo was at Ekiokpaga, where Ogiamen finally surrendered to him. Odige Olomi, for being able to defeat the violent leader, was subsequently conferred with the title of Iyase and was installed the first Iyase of Benin in about 1255 AD. How then did the vanquished Ogiamen now determine the terms of the treaty? Evidence points out that the treaty was for Oba Ewedo to mercifully grant him the right to hereditary succession, so as to remain relevant within the sphere of his family nucleus. To finally put to rest that the Ekiokpaga Treaty is a complete ruse created from the imagination of these unlearned people. If there was a treaty that was signed and the consequence of its violation is death, as the Ogiamens earlier insinuated, why then did Ogiamen accept the betrothed daughter of Oba Adolo, Princess Igbinake, in 1848 AD? Knowing well, a part of the treaty was no intermarriage between both families. We therefore plead for His Royal Majesty Oba Ewai II Ogidigan, as a result of these facts, to abolish this Ekiokpaga Treaty built on deception and lies, so as to completely bury this irrelevant bickering of the Ogiamen people. Oba Gatokbere.
Israel!
Second fact of the day, a Kaladeran. The lie they keep telling the public is that a Kaladeran is a myth created by Oba Erediawa. This statement really shows how historically shallow these people are, and this press conference is set up to educate them the more. Jacob Uwade Ararewa, in his book Short History of Benin, 1934 edition, explicitly mentioned a Kaladeran as the oldest son of Ogiso Owodo, who went on an exile and found himself at a place now called Owoton. The history of Owoton is in the public domain on how a Kaladeran established that village. At the time Erarewa published that book, young Prince Solomon Akenzwa, who later became Oba Erediawa, was only 11 years old. How then did the work Oba Erediawa, later published in 2004, become the genesis of a Kaladeran? Other later historians like Eyari published an article called A Kaladeran in mid-70s in one of the daily newspapers. OSB Omoregie, DN Onsaye in the early 90s published works on a Kaladeran. We have a Kaladeran primary school at Usen, Novia Northeast, as well as a Kaladeran grammar school in Erua at Wunhonde local government. These schools were established in the 60s and 70s. How come these Facebook champions continually deceive the populace with so much gutted fallacies? There are songs passed down from generations to generations of who Kaladeran was and what he represents. There is a day in Benin called Edi Kaladeran, which means a day where it rains and at the same time the shining sun high up in the sky. The old Benins remember that's how it was the day a Kaladeran left Benin, or Igodomigodo, a paradox of joy and sadness. Point number 3, on issues of deities.
I want to share it to friends.
Another lie being propagated by these people is that all deities in Edo land are Yoruba deities. This is a far cry from the truth, because deities like Ovia, Okwae, Ake, amongst several others are of the Benin origin. It was a Kaladeran who established the Olukun shrine at Ugoton and Ile-Ife. That is why it is only the Ife people that practices the divinity of Olokun in the entire Yoruba land, as the term Olokun is a conglomeration of two Benin words, Ole, owner, which means owner, and Okun, which means seas, which means owner of the sea, just like in Ole Iha, which we now call Olia. Some other deities got to these lands because of the supremacy Oba of Benin had over the Yorubas when they were defeated in various wars. Whatever Oba desired from them was taken, and because nobody ever dared us, our deities remain within the control of the Oba of Benin exclusively. Some ESS of Benin Kingdom came from the Ika territory. A very good example is the ESS of Oba Urugboa, and because of that, will the Ika people therefore now assume that Oba of Benin came from them? It is a common knowledge that Oba of Benin controlled almost the entire southern part of Nigeria, and as such he controlled all those within his vast empire, whether they are from his origin or not. We call it imperialism. When the Benin lost the unfortunate Anglo-Benin War to the British in 1897, they took everything that made us who we are, just as Oba of Benin took charge of every single part of his conquered territory. There was deliberate effort at the demystifying the Oba and rendering his powers obsolete. Oba talk about it. Point number 4. They also raised that Ogiso Owodo had no child. Hence, Obas of Benin have no royal blood relationship with the Ogisos. Another moonlight tale. The Ogiso family are still alive today, and they all acknowledge that the Oba of Benin is an extension of them. In order to show respect to this Ogiso dynasty by the Obas, they have continually allowed the Ohen-Iso to be the only chief with right of the cowrie crown that was once used by the Ogisos. They blatantly came out to say Ogiso Arigo had 2 sons, of which the eldest became Ogiso Owodo, and that the Ogiamens came from the lineage of the second son of Ogiso Arigo. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the press, that wouldn't have been true, because first, Ogiame greet Laire and not Laiso. The implication is that they came from the older family of Eholo, Nire, one of the Ejonene, and not the Ogiso family. Otherwise, they will have to come out and explain to the world the meaning of Ire in their family roots, which the Eholo family knows. Secondly, if Ogiso Arigo had a second son, of which Evian was his offspring, why did the elders of the land made Evian a regent, a Dai, knowing fully well that he has a blue blood in him? This shows that Ogiso Arigo had no other son other than Ogiso Owodo. Thirdly, Evian had 3 sons as follows. First, Uzama. Second, Ogiamie. And third, Olia. If truly Evian had a royal blood in him, or a natural ruler, rather than being an Ojonwe, his first son, Uzama, would have taken over or succeeded. Rather, his second son was forced on the people. The role Evian played is not different from the role Chief Awo Obaseki played. They were both opportunistic administrators, and it ends there. The public should also note here that Chief Ogiamie is a chief in the palace of the Oba of Benin, whose role in the ancient time was to carve and maintain an ekete to the reigning monarch, and he belonged to the group called Ozama Nibie, a Junior Ozama, a title that is quite inconsequential. History disclosed that between June 1897 to July 1914, the following chiefs were engaged by the then political residents, Lieutenant Tunal and other British officers at the formation of Benin Native Council. Chiefs Oshodi, Osagwe, Obayagbon, Ehondon, Ine, Eho, Osula, Aase, Obaseki, Ima, Yobaha, Ezomo, Uwaifo, Idemudia, Nwangwe, Osa, and few others, but certainly without Ogiamien. He was not even appointed as a warrant chief or a paramount chief, which lasted between 1899 to 1909 AD. Ogiamien from the time of Obayawedo in 1255 AD has only played a second fiddle at best. In the past, they have never ever challenged the Oba of Benin, and in the colonial period, the Ogiamien was never recognized by the colonial government. Why then all these unnecessary media charade? We do believe strongly that majority of the true Ogiamien family understand this fact, and they strongly condemn this abomination propagated by Ogiso. The said Ogiso is only maternally related to the Ogiamien family, and it takes the little coins that he has will give him relevance. Not when Association of Great Benin Descendants is alive to educate all misguided enemies of the revered throne of the Oba of Benin. Oba Atokwe.
Yes, sir.
In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, in our time, we must not fail to crush all the enemies of our land. We must be resolute. We must imbibe the very unconquering spirit of our ancestors with a huge sense of civility and intellectualism. We have not had any support from those who should have supported, but we'll keep fighting because this is our heritage and history, and our Oba is the greatest king on planet Earth. Frivolous activities of some misguided few cannot change the status of God's representative on earth. This is a time all Benins must rise up and fight for those who wish to denigrate the pride of our kingdom. Let it be known in all corners of the world that in our time we fought these battles and won. When posterity beckons, our names shall be remembered that we fought in the true spirit of patriotism to our kingdom, and our absolute loyalty is to the Oba of Benin only. We are ready for more challenges. It is the sole responsibility of our Association of Great Benin Descendants to crush those who dare try to distort and challenge our history, culture, and tradition. Long live the Oba of Benin. Long live the Great Benin Kingdom that will be reborn. Long live all Great Benin descendants all over the world. Umo Gonza, Gatokwe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we would love to entertain questions from the audience. You have questions, you have contributions, please. We'd love to hear from you. Your name, please.
Martin Stein of my endurance. The president of National Union of Benin Students. First of all, I need to sign this association.
University.
I'm the national president and also the Union chapter president. Thank you. So I need to thank this group for this initiative, especially to the public. Some of us, let me add myself, who are oblivious of some of these facts raised. And the question is, what should be done to finally debunk this fallacy, to bury this fallacy? So that is the question. What can we do? That is the question I want to ask before any other contribution. Thank you.
Any other question? I want to add.
That's to me.
Okay. You want to answer?
Yes or no? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nosahari Edudide. I'm the founder of Wazo Biare. It's a socio-cultural, it's a page on Facebook anyway. I just want to, because when the CG, what he read, I just want to throw a little light on some areas, like the area of Chief Olia going to Ife, you know, to bring back a Kaladera known as Oduduwa in Ife. From my research, I did some research on the reason how Elia was able to locate a Kaladera in Ife. From Yoruba version anyway, I read some Yoruba, their own articles and some of their movie. It revealed to me that a Kaladera, Oduduwa, came to Benin City at a time in his life. He came back here, and unfortunately, he came and met the Evian government, which was ruling then. And he was able to reconnect himself with his friend, which is which was then Chief Olia. As at the time he was a young prince in Benin, who was still a Kaladera in Benin, as in a young prince, he has a friend, and the friend was the son of the then Olia that was serving his father, Ogiso. I think he reconnected with that the Olia that was now serving Ifya. So, and he was informed of the situation on ground, how Ifya was ruling, maybe with iron fist, I don't know, whatever. Then he was also advised not to reveal himself because of the tension. That is what I understand from the Yoruba version anyway. I just want to harmonize it with the Benin version. You understand what I'm saying? So I think the Chief Olia now decide to kind of, although a Kaladera told him about his exploit in Yoruba land, how he fed in Yoruba land, how he became king there, his stories. So Chief Olia now sent some of his servants, some of his followers, to follow the Kaladera back to him. And these followers later came back to reveal what is to kind of give, the stories about his exploits, his strength in Ife. So that was what motivated Chief Olia to now kind of announce to Ifya and other Benin guys that they have had information that Kaladera is alive somewhere, which then led to the delegation and the message that was sent to Ife to relocate the Kaladera. That's just my contribution.
Well, thank you very much. So questions? Okay. Are there questions from the journalists first? Just a comment.
Okay.
Okay, just hold on.
My name is Gabriel Inawodase. I write for the families. Okay. I want to buttress an aspect of rape. That is Ede Kaladera. As a very young boy, small boy in this land, my grandfather met him. Used to tell us the story of Kaladera. There he left Benin, what happened, and how that day gets sacred significance in Benin. Not the Portugal.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Kamoko Ilari Nelson, from the Department of History, University of Benin.
let me thank the organizers of this program for joining the thousands of persons reviving the lost cultural heritage of Benin. My question is like this. We've been talking about time that the Caladera actually left the Benin Kingdom as a result of some issues which arose. The fact that Caladera was only surviving child of the then Ogiso, because Caladera really the and he left Benin Kingdom. But there is something that is not that clear that I want to actually answer. What was actually the factor that led to the banish of the Caladera from Benin Kingdom? So, like some persons have said that he was the only child of the urban of the Ogiso. The Ogiso was having so many wives, and they were unable to have other issues. As a result of that, some of the wives had to conspire with the Ogiso at then to ensure that the Caladera was being as for them, the other wives to be able to have issues. Some also have some different perspective or conception about that. So the question is, what was the actual incident, the actual thing that occurred that led to a Caladera being banished from Benin Kingdom before he left to discover the Yoruba and others? Any other question from the audience, please? Okay, one of our journalists.
Okay, the list story first. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ogiso, the journalist who reports the newspaper. My concern, more of a comment or observation, is that the Ogiamie crisis, or crisis that was trumped up recently, when I say recently, between the past 2 years and now, started manifesting during the coronation of our revered Oba Benin. So I want to find out, what do you think is the agitation, primary agitation of this group, led by Ogiso?
About the issue of Yemen and the claiming to the owner of Benin, it's a contentious one, and of course we know it has been a very resurgent one. Every now and then you see it rearing its ugly head. Now we hear that they are the Supreme Court, of course, trying to reclaim what they think is theirs. GBD being a group that fights for the rebirth of the old Benin Kingdom. From your statements, you said you will not. Of course, you are going to fight back. But I want to know here that how do you now achieve this without the backing of those that actually matters, or they choose to be at the background while they use you as a forerunner in this battle? Because you didn't say anything specific you will do to ensure that you finally put these people to where they belong. Is the question straight? Is it clear enough?
All right, it's clear.
Yeah, it's clear.
I'm sorry.
Any other question?
Sorry, sir. Can you record?
This will be the man.
My name is Rosemary Moraman from ITV. I want to get clear. Are you saying the public should disregard the existence of the Caladera as claimed by the Ghanaians? What is actually the meat of this conference? Are you saying the public should disregard the existence of a Caladera as claimed by the Ogiamese dynasty or whatsoever? I want to know the meat of this conference.
Her question is very, very important. All right. I hope you're listening, ma'am. I hope you're listening, ma'am. She asked a question and she's not listening.
Let me see there.
The question is really important because you want to know whether for the public to disregard whether a Caladera was real or not, isn't it? Whether a Caladera or Ogiamie, whether Ogiamie's statement on the Caladera is real. Okay, well, we read an addendum some time ago. I think they are going to give you a copy of that addendum, where even the Ogiamien in 2015 in their Ogiamien trumpet recognized the existence of the Kaladeran. We are not the ones saying it, just them. Now the story of the Kaladeran precedes every single human being on earth, because this personality existed over 1,000 years ago. Now the Ogiamien, in order to get soft landing, in order to make their argument a bit real, they try to remove the peculiarity, because it was the Kaladera that went to Ife, of which his son came back to Benin. Now when you cut a Kaladeran off, all right, that means it agrees with the fact they are trying to say that the Obas of Benin are Yoruba, that nobody went to Ife and came back. So the reason they are trying to postulate that the Kaladeran never existed is to give themselves a strength that the present monarch came from the Yoruba, because if a Kaladeran really existed, that means the present monarch is Benin and not Yoruba. Now the truth is this: a Kaladeran existed, recorded either by myths, by songs, or by historians way before this time. That is why I quoted the works of the first Benin historian, Jacob Owade Ayara, who published a book in 1934 where he stated that the existence of a Kaladeran. However, he was a bit biased with the truth, because at that time we only have one printing press in Nigeria, the Ibadan printing press, so there was censorship of history. So he always said that the Kaladeran got to Ugoton. Of course, we are here now, Igwe Kaladeran, almost all the communities along the Ekewan line, they are all called Igwe Kaladeran. These were the communities Kaladeran traversed before it got to Ugoton, where he established the Olo. Where he established the Ugoton. So the point is, they are trying to say Kaladeran never existed to get a strong argument to rely on. But in reality, the Kaladeran was the exiled Benin prince that went to become Oduduwa in Ife. I think I needed to just answer.
Your response to that question?
No, we'll respond to other questions. Some other question.
Do you want to answer?
Yes. Okay, so what we are saying in essence is you should disregard that of Ogiamien.
Disregard the misinformation.
Exactly.
You're trying to misinform the region public.
My name is Rocky Gomoye, newspaper. I want to find out, is there any end in sight for this Osaga? What? Is there an end in sight of this Osaga?
There's nothing without an end. There's a parable in Benin which says, people to the day. Actually, the issue of Ogiamien is just, I think, a least thing to think of in Benin Kingdom. I think it's the first time Ogiamien decided to raise their ugly heads. Also has at heart, Ogiso himself is not the rightful person to the Ogiamien title. He is from the mother side. She also knew that during the process of the question of the Oba of Benin, the right groups came out, telling Ogiso to keep up the Ogiamen's throne. So Ogiamen's issue is just to misinform the region public, to cause confusion, to create awareness. They just want attention. That's what I can say for now. So disregard them. They are useless.
Again, there were no agitations. As a matter of fact, you people should pay attention to this. There were no agitations since Obaewedo defeated the Ogiamien in about 1255. There were no agitations from the Ogiamien family since 1255 till recently. The reason is because of independence, that the Benins are no longer a sovereign nation of its own. Everybody has a way of not trying to challenge the authority of the Oba of Benin, because everybody now sees themselves as equal. Because gone are the days before 1897, the Ogiamen would have raised issues like this because issues like this never in any part of the history after they were defeated by Obaewedo recorded in the history of Benin. It was only recently, and that's because these people are trying to gain relevance to public. Now, someone asked, what are they really agitating for? The Ekiokpaga Treaty. Now, from the press address or the press brief, if you go back and read it again, we'll be able to establish that the Ekiokpaga Treaty that they outlined, I think they outlined about 7-8 reasons for the Ekiokpaga Treaty, is a figment of their imagination. Those things never existed. And we went further to prove it. After Odigie Olomi, who was a general that Obaewedo sent to defeat the Ogiamen people at Unwewu, the Battle of Unwewu. After they were defeated, now, is the populace going to tell me that when you defeat a man, the man that you have defeated will not tell you the terms of a treaty? So that is the point. Asoro Street, Unweru is Asoro Street. So Unweru is the present day Asoro Street along Sokomba. Now, after Ogiamen vanquished, after Obaewedo armies vanquished the Ogiamen people. Now, they are not telling us that the treaty that they presented about the A Treaty, they were the one who determined a treaty. A defeated people determined the terms of a treaty. That is a figment of imagination, and I wonder why the Benin historians before now never really looked at that. But rather, what the treaty was all about was a succession of hereditary. Now, since you have defeated me, I now know I'm no longer irrelevant. Nobody sees me as irrelevant. Please, Omo, Lao, make my title hereditary so that I can still be relevant within the sphere of my family nucleus. That is why Obaewedo is the one that formally and traditionally made Ogiame as a title in Benin. Otherwise, Ogiame was not a title before that time. So the Ekiokpaga Treaty was a treaty for Ogiame people to plead with Obaewedo to mercifully grant them the hereditary succession. I went further to say, because I said that whoever violates this treaty is upon death. So when you violate the treaty, whoever violates the treaty dies. I stated here, confirmed by Professor Tony Ogiame. Of course, he's the first man to have a private university in the United States of America. He tends to be the most educated Ogiame. No, 13th century. No, 13th century. That's when Ewedo made him Ogiame. It was Obaesigede and I instituted that Ogiame titleship into Uzamanibie. Alright? Now, understand this fact, like I was saying. Not, where was I? Okay, now, the Professor Tony in one of the Ogiame trumpets attested that the major reason some of the offsprings of Ogiame are tall is because Oba Adolo gave one of his daughters, alright, Princess Ibinake to Ogiame, which itself is a violation of the treaty. If there was a treaty of death that whoever violated, why did the Ogiame people accept? Remember, the treaty was that they will not intermarry. So that shows that there is deception and lies in the Ekiokpaga Treaty, and that's why we are calling on His Royal Majesty to, as a reason of his authority, abolish the Ekiokpaga Treaty, which is built on deception and lies. Those things written as Ekiokpaga Treaty is a figment of their imagination. It never existed, and I wonder why a lot of our historians before now never saw that. So that's what we are saying. So what they are clamoring for is that pay Ekiokpaga Treaty on ownership of land. How do you own a land that was never yours?
I don't know whether you understand. The land, I had established that Evian was a blacksmith at Eyanugi. So that means they were not ancestrally from Utantan. And I also established when they tell you that the Ogiame of Utanta kingdom, let me break it down. Utanta in Benin means long and straight. In the old Benin, the straightest and the longest road was Sokpomba. Alright? So that Sokpomba road, because it was so long and straight, we call it Utantan. Now, I had also established that there are Ogboka communities. The next communities are Ogboka communities. The Ogboka community terminated at Unweru, Asoro Street. So that means, if he said is the Ogiame of Utanta kingdom, his kingdom, Paravention, which is an Ojon way, because we are talking about Utanta Street. Now, it started from Asoro Street at Sokpomba and terminated at Ibiye Neva. That is, we are talking about from First East Circular to the moat at Tel Junction. So how can that be a kingdom? So Utantan simply means a street. So the best Ogiame ever attained in his career of being an administrator was an Ojon way of Utanta Street. So that's the point.
All right. For question number 1 from the national president of the Benin Association. He said, what should be done to correct this fallacy? Yeah, the error. So,
there's nothing much to be done about this. It's just orientation, getting awareness, and exposing their lives. You see, when you correct the mistakes, automatically it's already done. So the issue of, no, we're not going to go to war with them. They're not up to. So all we need to do is lead press briefing and whatever the city official said there should keep on spread. I like to go around the media, I like to go around all the papers. So those who have not seen it will keep saying it. So if you have it in your phone, all you do is type to spread. So you get to them themselves. That's just no big deal about that.
All right, thank you very much. The second question is, what led to the banishment of a Kaladeran?
Well, as for that, we cannot really speak on that.
The Kaladeran was not banished.
It was not banished. They had an internal crisis with father and son. Often the time, father and son do have issues. So for that, we cannot really talk about what really happened. So, but the fact is that the kingship was restored back. That's what matters. So that's not an issue because that's not really us anyway. Talking about that is just like dragging issues up here and there.
Well, the highlight is that the Kaladeran was not banished.
It was not banished.
All right. Kaladeran was not banished. Of course, you know the story of the intricacies in the family and what led and all that.
If he was banished, we wouldn't want to establish what in Saint Benin. Because he wasn't banished.
Okay. All right. The question from the daily newspaper. We said what is the primary agitation of the Ogiame led by Ogiso?
I think I answered that. I said the Ekyokbaga Treaty. No, of course. I had said it in the press conferences written there that in the first place, Arisco is maternally connected to the Ogiame. So when you are maternally created to Ogiame, you don't even have any right to the Ogiame title. Not to think about you want to go on a Ekyokbaga Treaty. And I have explained that those Ekyokbaga Treaty that when an Oba comes, he wants to pay sand, that I cut half of my kingdom, I give you half and I take half. The question, when Oba of Benin was defeated in 1897, what was the remaining half of the kingdom? Since Ogiame has half of the kingdom. When the British defeated the Benin, you remember where they said it's half of the kingdom, they have 3.5, we have 3.5. That means they defeated the Benin 3.5. So why didn't the 3.5 of Ogiame take over Benin? So I think we're done with all questions.
No. There's one from Spy News.
Okay.
I think that how do you achieve or put your Ogiame where they belong? I think that's where you were trying to. Yeah, that's from the press conference.
Well, a lot of persons actually expected there should be an official press statement from the palace, and we just said, why would the palace address this nuisance, this new compos, when we can actually address them? We have been begging them to come out, choose any TV station of theirs, any Facebook live video, let them choose anywhere. Whether in Port Harcourt, since that's their base, whether in Port Harcourt or anywhere, let them choose. We'll meet them there so that we can teach them the true history of the land and not the concocted history. Now, the truth is that we are officially telling the palace of the Oba of Benin that issues like this shouldn't bother them. We have that responsibility to always reply our Oba.
I think okay, the one from ITV. Are you saying the public should disregard the comment from Ogiame? I think that has been answered, so should disregard. So I think that's
all.
Another question I get to address.
Okay, it's okay. Okay, no, real point. Okay.
Okay, I think that's yeah.
No, I think after the press conference is done, we'll check their list. There won't be any more. Neru ni manu get passed. Where?
I think we're coming close. Around the end of the program, we have to sing our Benin national anthem. Yes. This goes like this. So please, you'll be granted live interview and interview. So please,
any interview?
Huh?
Yes. Well, interview.
So,
that lady.
Okay.
She was written in the I took it to her.
Okay. So we'll start with you. Oh, you can do the introduction. I'm Musanze. I'm Come and do that. Okay. Where are they doing the introduction?
Okay, you move so.
Some of them, they actually gain a lot. I think there has been a cultural documentation in this time and such. I believe with this conference it's going to be an enlightenment to the public as well. There are so many that I can't even start with anything right now. So I'm delighted, very happy that I had the privilege to be here. And I'm going to join in this fight to make sure we restore back the glory of the Benin this time. So these wagons of our dictators, those that don't want the Benin to go forward, these people shall be named in due course.
Your name?
I'm Imado Simon Mandela.
Imado Simon. Alright, another.
Please.
What are some of the things you're taking back to school from this conference?
Please, for those that need soft coffee.
I've actually learned a lot. I actually do that issue, but I do get mine. Actually, I got to know about the content in mind. So some of the issues I didn't get to, but now, like I know full well, like I say, good. I say yes, to everything and I can inspire what I
Should I have one more? Hello. I want to come to student TV. Are you talking?
Let's get an interview. Me, you better sit up now.
Look at the camera.
Yes, man, no mistake, no pressure.
Thank you. Please watch this. Just look at the camera. Okay, with this conference today, is there any word of advice for the organizer of the conference? What you have got to know?
Okay, thank you very much. Dan, I'm Sazobo is my name. I'm a Dogon inventor. Really excited to be here at this great conference put together by the great Benin Descender. I think it's a great privilege to be here at this live press conference, and has been the success of the way addressing some issue that is really bothering the progress.
What are your words for the convener?
Yes, okay, my words for the convener is to keep up the good fight, keep up the good work, and together we can make a donation great again. I want to tell them to keep it up and never give up the struggle. I myself will continue to be part of this great Benin Descender as an inventor. That I miss my
Very important. President of Edward. We came here to discuss some stories being told by the family. The family, they are just starting, so we beg the general public to be aware of this fact that the issue is not a non-issue. So we cannot stand in the road to start figuring out to see a group of people from Ghana assaulting the palace and the new institution. So from today, we now appeal to them to stop what they are doing and make peace. Commandant of
I see.
Finish it now. Okay. Yes, you can.
Please, sir.
Flash. No, not it. And I asked her.
No.